Phase 4 Season of Discovery. I am excited. This is gonna be great.
Season of Discovery was announced at BlizzCon. It was the most hype moment of the event for me. I mean, yeah.
Hell yeah. It was probably the most hype event in recent World of Warcraft history.
I'll probably end up checking the retail expansion out as I always do, and as much as I was looking forward to...
I will not. I have not been checking out the retail expansion since I got disappointed by Shadowlands, and that was really bad. Even though as a rogue, a sub-rogue, the button rotation was very fun, gotta say, but everything else was I hated every single second of it. So I'm not checking out your newest expansions, especially Blizzard's DUI-filled new expansion, where the main character that's gonna do things and make the story move forward is gonna be a black, female, half-elf cripple. Okay? That's a little bit too much woke in one character, Blizzard. Oh no, she's actually, sorry, double cripple. Double cripple. No, Blizzard, I am not touching that expansion with a 10-foot pole currently. I don't care that it's the good writer back on board, and this is actually a 3-parter. And the fact that Dragonflight was by all accounts good, I am still not touching your garbage. I need at least four expansions in a row to be amazing now before I decide, hey, maybe it's time to actually check out retail at this point. Forget about it.
Takata and have been enjoying it so far. I was kind of expecting that to happen. Season of Discovery just came way out of left field, and while some form of Classic Plus would have been on many people's bingo cards, it was still crazy to see Blizzard really commit to it, to give us that vanilla experience once again, but this time with some things being different.
I don't understand these people. Season of Discovery is Classic Plus. There is no way that you can deny that it's Classic Plus. There is one argument that you can make that Season of Discovery is kind of not Classic Plus, because no one really can, we can't really come to a conclusion what Classic Plus technically should be. But for the group of people who think that Classic Plus should be the continuation of the World of Warcraft story from Classic, but in a different direction that it currently has gone, with the unfinished zones like the original intended Outland, the Emerald Dream, and Dragon Isles, and all of those things. And for that I say, okay, for you, yeah, the Season of Discovery is not Classic Plus. But for everyone else, Season of Discovery is Classic Plus. If Classic Plus moves Classic forward in any way, then this is it. This is just a prequel to the actual thing. Because if Classic moves forward with Classic Plus, there's gonna be new skills, new items, new balance, new things like that. And that's exactly what Season of Discovery has done. It has introduced new mechanics, new skills, new items, and things like that. So, I do not believe when people say, oh, Season of Discovery is not Classic Plus. It is Classic Plus. No matter how you want to spin it, it is Classic Plus.
Had phased level caps, new craftable items and profession quests, no PTR testing to keep things hidden, new class identities such as Mage Healer.
I don't care about PTR to keep things hidden, okay? First day instantaneously with a simple Google search, you already knew half of the runes and where to get them. Not a big deal.
Shaman tank and so on, and of course the runes that they teased at BlizzCon. And whilst early on for Season of Discovery the phrase Classic Plus was thrown around a lot, both by Blizzard and the community, it's become apparent that's not really what it was meant to be. For me personally, Classic Plus cannot be seasonal for a start, and it can't be an expansion either. If there's a cutoff point to the content, that's fine if that's what it's meant to be, but MMORPGs are meant to be these persistent worlds that you can come back to. And as for expansions in World of Warcraft,
this is not true. I don't agree with that. World of Warcraft is not a persistent world that you're supposed to come back to. Classic has proven it. People love to start fresh. It's just true, they do. People love to start fresh in Path of Exile. People love to start fresh in Diablo, Last Epoch. In every game, when new servers are announced, everyone is super hyped. And for Classic, how many start fresh situations have we already had? There was the original one, then there was Season of Mastery where you can start fresh, but it's slightly harder. Then there was just another start fresh thing. Then there's the community starting things fresh once again, and it's a big thing. It is crazy. People love starting fresh. Classic Plus can be seasonal. I have absolutely no problems with that. And I think absolutely almost no one, honestly, has a problem with Classic Plus being seasonal.
Warcraft, they just tend to replace content instead of building on it. What Season of Discovery has really been for me has been a big testing grounds for implementing new ideas and seeing how they're received, both from the point of view of adding totally new content into the game such as the Ashenvale or STV PvP events, to trying to balance classes a bit better than they did in original vanilla. But the levels of hype for Season of Discovery on its launch were...
How's the situation with raiding? I literally have not raided for... I don't know. I missed the first lockout, and then I raided 7 more times. And after that, I have not raided again. That's it. I have not raided again. I have missed a lot of weeks of raiding. But you know what I am doing? I'm making money. I'm flipping the auction house. If you're on Living Flame Horde and you're wondering why basic shit costs now literally tens of thousand times more, hello! I like to make gold. It's fun. I log in every day, you know, at the start, at the middle, at the end of the day, and, you know, for 5 minutes I check the auction house, and then you have to pay roughly 30 silver for a single piece of basic leather. Isn't that fun? And I'm just one person. There's a lot of other people, by the way, doing that. Oh yeah, if you're wondering why the auction house seems completely effed, why suddenly golden pearls flew up 2 times. By the way, they're gonna fly up like multiple times that up in price soon. Especially now that season 4 is officially announced. Not 4, but phase 4 is officially announced. Bruh, look at Mooncloth, up 25%. What up, boys? Guess who has stocks in that?
Massive. I bet Blizzard were blown away by the sheer amount of people resubbing.
This is probably also not going to be forever, but today Elemental Fire was worth 1.2 gold from yesterday's, you know, 15 to 20 silver. Okay? Guess who has a giant stock of characters with that bad boy? Yeah, that's right. And considering Elemental Fire has already been worth 1 gold in the past because smart people are buying it, and by the way, you can buy it too. You're going to make a profit no matter what. The difference is maybe you're going to make a 50% profit, but some other people are going to make 1000% profit. And the reason why I say this is because the free attendees are literally there. You just have to start buying Elemental Fire. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if everyone the price is going to increase faster, which means it's going to be more expensive later on anyway, so I still make even more of a profit. So there you go. It's great. It's fun times.
To see what all the fuss was about. After all, if Blizzard could deliver on this, it had the chance to be huge.
Mommy.
And as it went live, thousands of people jumped back into the world of vanilla once again. And whilst I'm, of course, planning to do a full review of Season of Discovery once all is said and done, we can have a small and brief retrospective to where we've gotten to where we are today. Phase 1 of the season came around and boy did it deliver. Leveling to 25 could be done very casually in a short space of time. Runes were easy to come by during leveling. The BFD raid was 10 man on.
Dude, everyone at this point had like 3 or 4 characters that they wanted to play. Good times, good times.
A 3-day lockout, there were loads of people running ults, and the unviable specs of vanilla became viable. If you ever had dreams of playing a
I mean, everything except melee became viable. That's more accurate, kinda. If no one wanted Shadow Priest, no one wanted honestly anyone but melees at this point.
Shaman tank, or maybe doing something that's never been seen before in WoW, such as a mage healer. This was your chance to do it. There were some issues, don't get me wrong. Ashen Vale had to undergo half a dozen changes in a reset or so, and hunters could solo any other class in the game using their Scorpion pet with Eyes of the Beast. It was hilarious and broken in equal measure, but it was fresh, and you know what? Fresh is fun. It's really hard to get fresh wrong. Soon after that, Phase 2 dropped.
Dude, when the Hunter Pit solo outpassed 90% of the classes, what a time to be alive.
Raising the level cap to 40, and this is where momentum began to shift, and notably...
Yeah, from 3 to 4 characters, now it was 2, maybe 3 characters that you were running.
Slow down. Despite the leveling being a lot more bite-sized than it usually is in vanilla, being on the foot for the majority of the time started to take its toll with just how long everything in the game takes to do. And whilst runes were given to you super early in Phase 1, by Phase 2 oftentimes you had to be well into your level 30s before you'd see anything new gameplay-wise.
I don't think that mattered honestly too much. What mattered was that there were a lot of runes that take just a long time. Yeah, but especially with walking. The runes that take you from this continent to this continent and, you know, vice versa 5 more times, it's a bit much, okay? Oh, and by the way, now that we can all admit this freely, that maybe it's not really great that you have, you know, 24-ish runes per class, and getting all of those runes takes roughly 5 days, you know, of game time to actually finish them all sometimes. No, okay, 5 days is a little bit much, but it takes an astonishingly long period of time to actually get all of the runes for every class. It's literally more than 2 days of work on average. Now that we can all freely admit, do I get an apology for when I said in Phase 1, oh, when Phase 1 ends and we slowly creep to being level 60, the runes are gonna become a problem? Can I get an apology from everyone who called me stupid? You don't know what you're saying? How can doing rune quests not be fun? Well, how are you feeling now? It's Phase 3 and every single one of us has 1 level 50. And the super giga players have 2 level 50s, and they're probably not even doing two raids per week.
And when you combine runes such as the Campfire one that starts in Desolus and ends in Arathi Highlands, or Dark Riders with no riding and needing to do them across multiple characters, the disjointed travel
Thank God, not a single class that I played relied on the Dark Rider rune too much.
Started to wear heavy on those who would have invested into alts in Phase 1. The STV PvP event rolled around, and it had to get just as many changes as Ashen Vale did to get it in a solid state. And it also started to highlight the crazy levels of power creep we'd seen. The whole gameplay in PvP was one shot or be one shot. And Nomragun as the new raid had some fights where not knowing the tactics would...
I do not like the idea, by the way, that in Classic they're even trying to push PvP. Classic PvP is complete trash. Change my mind. You can't. You literally can't.
Just wipe you, and it definitely upped the difficulty compared to BFD. And as we currently are, we are in Phase 3. Alongside raising the level cap to 50, one of the
fact that Gnome rank was hard was kind of insane. Also, you know what happened in the first Gnome raid I participated in with my guild? Well, I got knocked off by the crowd bubbler. Yeah, and then I got battle res into an instant knockback. That was a lot of yelling.
Core new features of the phase was the PvE focused nightmare incursions, which, not to go into a rant you've heard 100 times over by now, we'll save that for the full review, believe me, but this was not a great feature for many players. Simply put, they just ended up...
Also, by the way, the fact that we're currently getting like 300% experience rates and whatnot, this is not going away. if Classic Plus or whatever you want to call exists, it's going to instantaneously start with a 200% XP boost. People are not gonna play this game without an XP boost any longer. That's it. People who play SOD, there's no way. There is no way to returning to just default 100% experience. People are gonna quit. It's gonna take too long. It's just not gonna work. World of Warcraft Classic is now forever gonna be the bare minimum 200% experience.
Being the best way to do everything from gaining experience, new gear, gold, even a rune, and the core gameplay loop of them mimicking the Cenarian hold rep.
Oh god, please no. Thank god I didn't have to do this for long. I quit the game before that.
Was just not that much fun either. Runes continued to be lengthy journeys by and large across the world, which made prospects of doing this on an alt less fun, and by this time we had well over a dozen runes to collect if you did start to want a new.
Yeah, imagine getting 20, okay, let's be real. Getting roughly 15 useful runes per class, and you want to play like 3 or 4 alts. How many days do you think that's gonna require you to actually finish? Yeah.
Character, and some of those runes needed more than one person to get as well. And for the raid, Sunken Temple started off being comically overtuned before being gradually nerfed.
It wasn't overtuned. Classic players are just fucking shit. That's the reality. It was not overtuned. People wiped on bosses before they got to the last one, and they still cleared the day one, even without world buffs active any longer. It was not comically tuned. There were situations where the tank just gets one-shotted if you're unlucky and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, that's just Blizzard being Blizzard. But everything else, no, it was not overtuned.
Down to a more reasonable state. Even then, the loot in there was often not that exciting up until Blizzard buffed it recently.
But no, actually, wait, let me clarify that a little bit, because that shit is a little bit insane, okay? So the raid wasn't overtuned when difficulty-wise. The mechanics were not that hard or anything like that. It's just the fact that classic players can't even do 2 mechanics. And by the way, the current parses I have already talked about it prove me 100% right. Because if you go into a Sunken Temple currently without world buffs, well, you lose 30% damage. Which means if you are, for example, a rogue, that means that you're gonna, even if you press your buttons perfectly, your parse is gonna be below 50 on the first 3 bosses, if you do not have world buffs. But then, on boss 4 and 5 and onward, a miracle happens. Without world buffs, I can parse on those guys 70 to 80. That just means that everyone is dying at the bosses, because everyone is just taking this game too lightly. No one cares to do the mechanics, and that means that literally almost 9 out of 10 raid groups are wiping in Sunken Temple at this point. Because no one cares about anything, because it's just like, okay, this should be easier, blah, 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 and all of those things. It is literally crazy. And that's literally supported 100% confirmed by the parse currently.
But it feels as though it's a bit too little too late. Which gets us to where we are today, looking ahead to Phase 4. And Phase 4 has to achieve quite a lot if it wants to bring Season of Discovery back to some of its former glory. You know, we're just over 6 months into the season at the moment. This is a server which could very well last about 12 months or so total. It's about time we got to level cap, isn't it? One of the first things to mention about Phase 4 is that it will have a PTR, and honestly, I'm glad we're getting these back. No PTR was initially a cool idea to keep things fresh, but people go through.
I did not care about that. The super sweats are gonna super sweat no matter what, and the average player doesn't actually give a shit.
Content at such a pace and word spread so fast via forums, Reddit, Discord and so on that it just didn't have its desired impact. Pretty much everything bar some runes which were bugged in Phase 1.
Bro, I think this is footage of Season Discovery, right? I'm not sure. No, he doesn't have any, he doesn't have Crusader Strike, so I guess this is not that? But I'm not sure. But man, remember when Classic literally launched? I was playing an Undead then. Dude, you think 4 people on a spawn is much? Try 20! Try 20! And there's literally hordes of people running around you. Man, it was such a cool experience when Classic got officially announced and day 1 hit. It was beautiful. It was such a cool experience.
Impact. Pretty much everything bar some runes which were bugged in phase 1 were found out in a matter of a day or two, and the discovery aspect insofar as finding how to do the new stuff only really happened for those on the Discords who could play all day every day. For the average player, finding your runes without looking them up online after phase 1 would have been really challenging. The game just doesn't throw you that many hints.
No, it was literally impossible. Unless it's a super common quest area or something, you were not finding any runes solo.
Blizzard also left the ability to data mine future content as a possibility, so at the end of the day, what was the point of not having a PTR? I know with retail they encrypt things which could be story spoilers all of the time, so they can do this if they want to, they just didn't. Anyways, we're getting a bit off track here, but the point is, Phase 4 will have a PTR. They say about this, we're gonna spin up a limited time PTR specifically focused on combat and class testing for Phase 4. We plan to include level 60 templates with all runes and abilities learned, and we tentatively plan to provide some sort of access to the level 60 tier.
Oh boy, which means they're gonna balance things. Dude, again, Blizzard is horrible at balancing things. It is insane that they can't get balancing right, by the way. It is absolute mind-blowing insanity. Because how stupid do you need to be? You go into Sunken Temple at the start and you see, for example, I don't know, pick random class. Let's say Hunters. Hunters are doing a little bit too much damage at the start, right? You see that Hunters are just, you know, outscaling everyone, okay? By roughly 20%. And, you know, mages are literally their bottom of the pack and, you know, doing 1/5 of the Hunter's damage or something like that. You know, basic stuff. What do? Well, you could nerf the Hunter, but they don't. You could buff the Mage, but they don't. Because they don't know what they're doing. If you want to buff the Mage damage, just start buffing things. You know? The Mage is 1/5 of the top DPS class damage. You literally cannot go wrong by starting just randomly buffing crap. You literally cannot go wrong. You can add 20% on literally every skill's damage, and it's still probably not going to be enough. It's true. And for Hunters, or you know, any class that they need to nerf, they're like looking, yeah, this is too powerful. What do? Well, how do we nerf it? It's most of the time to just balance these things out, you need to nerf one thing by 20%, maybe one skill by 20%, and you're completely fine. What does Blizzard do? They don't do it. It's crazy how they cannot balance anything.
Set bonuses. We also plan to provide access to training dummies and some raid content as well as battlegrounds, so
finally training dummies.
Players can test their new builds. So for once we're going to be going into this phase with far more testing done on our full end game builds, and hopefully this means there won't be any more huge outliers which are just basically useless from the get-go or broken beyond belief. I'm not expecting perfect by any means, but for me this is a
at this point, if you're expecting that Blizzard will even moderately, not completely F up, you're crazy, okay? The balance is going to be, there's going to be one class that deals 20 times more damage than the lowest DPS class. It's not going to even be close.
Positive step. For what it's worth, the classes and how they play in raiding are more interesting than they were in vanilla for me. Any departure from a one button rotation is a good thing. When we hit 60, vanilla also just has tons more endgame by default, so you'll have a lot more to do weekly than just your 45-minute Sunken Temple. Blizzard also mentioned they will match the content releases similar to how it was in 2019. So what that'll mean is first up we'll have Molten Core and Onyxia, and a few weeks weeks later, that's in their words, we'll see Blackwing Lair. And then after that, we'll have future raid content, as well as some surprises in between. I have to say vanilla raid...
So a few weeks later, considering I leveled really slow, I'm missing probably the first and maybe, depending on the leveling speed, second raid. So you're telling me about the time I start raiding because I level super slowly, Blackwing Lair is gonna already be out? Well, I guess I'm not gonna even try to parse in that case.
Raids with their world buffs, consume stacking and group-wide buffs might not be my favorite version of how raiding has worked in this
World
game,
buffs
but
suck.
you can't say there isn't a lot of stuff worth doing, right from Molten Core for your binding runs all the way to Naxxramas.
Also, by the way, world buffs are so dumb. Again, I have been saying this since Classic actually began. I have been an advocate of just removing world buffs. They're stupid, they're bad, they ruin the game, you should feel bad about yourself if you like them, okay? Also, they're a huge part why classes are not balanced. Because, do you know why warriors are not balanced? For example, why warriors tend to do more damage than anyone else? Because warriors have cooldowns that no one else has. For example, like recklessness or whatever, that increases damage by 20%. You need to understand, when you have your ability power, other player buffs, and world buffs, it's not plus. At some point, there's pretty much a times multiplier. And that recklessness buff is a times multiplier at that point, almost for sure. And other classes don't have these things, so they cannot compete. So if you remove world buffs, you can actually balance the classes properly, almost to a degree, because you no longer have to worry about the crazy multipliers.
You might also remember when they first teased Season of Discovery at BlizzCon, they showed a few panels with Scarlet Monastery, Gnomeregan, and the Karazhan Crypts, alluding to possible future content, and it's been 50-50 on that happening or not so far. I'm not gonna lie, if we didn't get Kara Crypts now, it would be quite a letdown after not seeing anything new done with Scarlet Monastery, but who knows how much time they'd have had to work on everything.
Yeah, they actually promised Phase 3 SM raid or something like that, right?
Also, we have to consider raid size at level 60, so we know Molten Core will be 20 player, this has been confirmed, but Blizzard did say after that they have some desire to return at least one raid to being 40 player.
40 is just gonna completely not work. 20 is already too much. 20 is already too much. 10, you need to balance the classes. 20, it's just too much. It's just, no. 40, I would be surprised even if that actually worked. I think the 40-man raids are going to only be done by the literal most dedicated guilds in the game.
And that downsizing raids may be more difficult than expected. And from what I can tell, people are super split on this. I did a poll a while ago, which got around 14,000 votes, with 41% of people wanting raids to go back to 40 player.
Well, that's not really being split there. That's, you know what's being split? 50%. This is 60 to 40.
And 59% saying no. I have to say, 40-player raids are one of those original vanilla design experiences which you can only get from that version of the game. But these days...
Yeah, but it was shit.
The logistics of putting...
It's not the logistics. I know he's going to say logistics, by the way. That's always an argument. I don't think it's the logistics of a 40-man raid being hard to get because you need 40 people. Sure, getting 40 people is way harder than getting 20 people, but in Season of Discovery, the bosses are going to have like 3, or God forbid, 4 mechanics sometimes. 3 mechanics is literally the average boomer World of Warcraft Classic players, like, complete brain cap. Classic was so successful because typically all you did in a raid, look at this, this is Nefarian. You know what you did in this raid? You just stood, I think you stood here as DPS, I don't even remember anymore. But you just stood there as DPS and clicked one button because that was your rotation. And then maybe some guy in the guild in the Discord yelled, melee stop attacking or whatever because there's something going on. And that was it. That's it. That's it. And the boss was down. Now imagine you need to get 40 people, plus you need 40 people that actually can do more than 2 mechanics. That's not happening. I'm sorry to say this, but this is not happening.
Groups that big together is just really difficult. Maybe for a seasonal server, it's better to go on the side of accessibility, despite it not being entirely vanilla-like. For me, it feels as though most people that really want to organize 40-player raiding are doing it on Classic era at the moment, and given all the changes on Season of Discovery, it's a bit of a different player base. This one's a really hard one to call. We'll see what they end up doing with it, but they do seem to want to have at least one 40-player raid. Blizzard has also mentioned they plan to re-itemize many endgame pieces of gear too. There will be new tier set bonuses.
By the way, my hot take still stands. I want them to put item haste and mastery into the game. I want to have a Season of Discovery. I think those were great stats, and I enjoy them in Cataclysm, and I would enjoy them in Classic.
2 aimed at the new class combos as well as existing specs, and I'm expecting some form of tier token to be heavily attached to this too, by the way. In vanilla, tier just straight up drops and there's only one version of it, which is why your druids would get their full tier set in 2 raids, and other classes will be fighting over theirs for weeks, if not months. Imagine in Season of Discovery you kill a boss and it drops your warlock tank tier for the 3rd time in a row. That's not going to feel too good.
I don't think that's the problem. One of the reasons also why I didn't like raiding in phase 3 is just because, well, you get your tokens, and everyone reserves tokens, right, at the start. So effectively, like 3, 4, maybe worst case scenario, 5 raids of reserving tokens, you have all the tokens. And now you need very specific pieces of gear from that raid. And for example, if you're a rogue, I don't know about you boys, but from 7 raids, if I was not going for a token, I won 0 other items. There was nothing. There's almost nothing to get. You're doing I don't even remember how many bosses Sunken Temple is at this point, Jesus. You know, you're doing those 6, 7 bosses or whatever many there are, and, well, except the tier tokens, what are the drops you're looking for, actually? Let's see. Nothing. Nothing. Literally nothing. There are like 3 items that you want as a rogue from that raid other than that. And the chances of them dropping are close to none. It's really bad.
Good, is it? We need to see what Blizzard end up doing with incursions too. If we follow the release schedule of Vanilla Classic, then the Green Dragon World bosses will be added into the game around the same time as ZG. And if you don't know what that means, well, you know those portals you go through to do incursions? They're gonna have massive Green Dragon World bosses put in front of them who will one-shot anyone without a serious raid group behind them. I remember people in Season of Mastery would layer hop to farm these world bosses, but I'm pretty sure Blizzard fixed that at some point in time. Anyways, this happening in the world seems as though it could be a time to wrap up incursions here, and maybe just leave some easy way to cap out the rep in the game. I also think it's important that incursions don't become the meta for leveling once again.
I'm not gonna lie, in capping out the rep with incursions by just doing incursions is super easy already if you really want to do it. It's gonna take you, what, roughly 5 hours to cap out from Honored? That's not hard. That's really not hard. And there's no reason to be, by the way, exalted with this faction, pretty much. If you're a rogue, there is, but other than that, no, there's no.
Again, I mean, they definitely got people out of dungeon grinding, but I don't think it was much of an improvement. Questing for me has always been solid in this game, and I think it should be the fastest way to level through quest reward XP. Dungeons can always be a viable alternative which is slower, but they have their own benefits in that you don't have to deal with open world competition and the aspect of farming pre-raid bis as well. Speaking of dungeons, the wild offering system was interesting from phase 3, and as much as I like it in theory, I hope Blizzard have taken some lessons from how people used it, where they just rushed to the end bosses. You can put together a raid group for any dungeon in the game other than Scholomance or
Yeah, I did this.
ERD in vanilla. Don't ask me why, that's vanilla for you. But usually you would never ever do this because you can't complete regular quests in a raid, more competition for loot, and it would affect your experience gained. The only, I guess, dungeon that you always make a raid group for is UBRS, but that's its own thing. The rest of the time you never value having a raid group going into a dungeon unless we have this weird scenario such as Wild Offerings. But I do think the Wild Offerings system has potential. As amazing as dungeons are in
It wasn't technically that bad, but it was slightly annoying. Especially if you were on a PvP realm. Jesus.
vanilla, they tend to have a very short lifespan. People blast through them, they get their prebis, and then 2 weeks later you're trying to pay a tank to get him to come along and run the dungeon for you. I remember during 2019 playing Classic on Gehenna's Alliance. This was a very popular server back then. By the end of the second reset, it was a struggle to get a tank for Scholomance because the incentive just isn't there to keep running them once you're done with them. Wild Offerings maybe could help in this scenario and give a bit more life to this 5-man content. Moving on to PvP, so
Band of the Wild and Breath of the Beast. I don't think anyone I have ever even heard of anyone buying any other of these items. But yeah, these were good. And this is by the way BIS. I think Band of the Wild is BIS for rogues. I don't remember, but you know, well, considering the upgrade ring is from the last drop from Hakar, and well, it's what? It's not even more damage. It's like 5 more stamina or something like that. So you get the idea. It's kind of crazy.
we've had 2 new PvP events this season, Ashen Vale in Phase 1 and STV in Phase 2, and then in Phase 3 there was nothing new, but those are a lot of battlegrounds and 2 PvP events, so I actually think there's not a bad amount of content if you are into PvP balance aside that is. But in the final phase there are 2 events in the game already, those being in Silithus and Eastern Plaguelands. The kind of issue with them is they're both, well, how can I put this, pretty terrible. Maybe they could be used for some
Never done it.
future PvP related content, but as it stands at the moment, there really just isn't a ton of substance to them. In Silithus, you pick some items up across the floor in the zone and carry it to a guy and then get a small buff, and the first faction to reach 200 gets a rep buff within the raids in Silithus, and in EPL it's like a King of the Hill system with a bunch of towers, and the more towers you control, the more various buffs you get within the zone, and that's it. Maybe there could be some more rewards tied to these activities, or just some kind of gameplay change which would incentivize people to go and play.
I hope not. I hate classic PvP. Sue me. I just don't like it. I think it's atrocious.
Them. Either way, these are 2 PvP related open world activities in the game right now, so hopefully they are reworked a little bit. The PvP events so far have been kind of hit and miss. They've all come out as fresh ideas and have needed so many changes to get them in a good state, and the power creep from new runes and gear has made the PvP meta extremely burst heavy. I mean, to be fair, it already was in vanilla, but this is on a whole other level. Blizzard have been testing reducing damage taken and reducing the effectiveness of healing in PvP to try and course correct the burst.
I don't think they can course correct PvP unless they make the cooldowns lower. It needs to be like, you know, retail, the cooldowns. It's just true. It's dumb. Also, by the way, are we not even going to talk about the fact that trash sucks? Also, I noticed this at one point at running Sunken Temples. The trash on average takes you 5 minutes to complete. You know what 5 minutes is in World of Warcraft? It's all your big cooldowns. So, Sunken Temple is trash after trash after trash after every boss, literally 35 minutes of trash, because then all the cooldowns are off. Blizzard, how about this? I'm gonna save raiding for you, because again, saving raiding is super easy. Remove trash. You're not gonna have to deal with the idea that hunters are solo farming more gold than God, and you're not, and you know, just lower cooldowns for classes. You know, there's no reason for sprint to be a 5-minute cooldown, baby. That shit should be 1 minute, if that. Okay, listen, just make all the big 5-minute cooldowns 2 minutes. And then we can have a talk, you know. Then we can have a good time, and then we will not have to spend 35 minutes clearing trash in Sunken Temple. Because again, Blizzard, No one in the history of all of the game probably has ever said to you, wow, how much I love clearing trash. No one has ever said that, Blizzard. So why do you keep putting trash in the game? No one wants to do trash. We just want to blast the boss down, okay? We just want to do that. We don't want to do trash, okay? It's just bad.
Dusty nature of the season. Not gonna lie, feels like they're just putting resilience in the game without you having to actually change your gear set, but if it stops people from getting one-shots, I guess that's the goal. It really feels to me like over the years, balancing both PvE and PvP under one talent and ability.
I wanted to play Arcane Mage, then I decided not to. I think Arcane Mage is fun. It could be fun, you know. So fast shooting arcane missiles, I don't care about the fact that look at the DPS, it's bad. I literally could not care less as long as it's fun.
System has proven an impossible task.
I'm here, by the way, anyway, typically, so what do I give a shit about?
To do, and we're just seeing this play out once again for I don't know how many times. Take Shadow Priest, for instance. You take one to a raid and it'll barely appear on the DPS meters. You take one to a battleground and they're probably going to be one of the most valuable assets on your team.
True.
Also to think about in the final phase will be the ranking sets from 7 through 10, which were very good back in vanilla and were used as pre-raid gear, if not phase 1 bis for some classes. Will these sets be outdated with the new raid gear? Will they be updated? And will this gear release at the start of phase 4? And then later on we have the epic PvP sets from rank 12 to 14, which people tend to agree they're somewhat similar to the power level of the gear released in AQ40, but again, will this gear be outdated by that point in time? Will it already be in the game earlier than that? I remember in Season of Mastery they put ranking out with the availability to get rank 14 gear straight away, and people just rushed towards that and ignored a lot of the raid-based upgrades. Still waiting for information on.
Well, yeah, because it's pointless. You need this is the obvious thing. Okay, listen. So there's this thing that there's these two things. This is PvP and this is PvE. They're completely separate, and you can get PvE gear that's really good, and then you can get PvP gear that's better than that. So why would you ever, and considering these two things are separate, they don't interact with each other, there's no way to do PvP to get PvE rewards and vice versa. Why would you, if you want the best gear, which is PvP, why would you ever do the PvE things? You're just slowing yourself down to get the maximum PvP reward that you're after. So yeah, this is a natural thing that people do.
On this, by the way.
If people didn't do this, I would be kind of like, uh-oh. Is the fluoride in the water too high? What's happening?
But I think it's just something important to think about and be aware of. Overall, I reckon the baseline content on offer up to level 60 in vanilla is already quite strong. And even with...
By the way, everyone's using melatonin for sleeping. I think that's gonna kind of backfire on everyone in like 5 years.
Without adding anything new, there's a bunch to keep people occupied, at least for a while. PTR class balancing with full rune sets and tier gear is going against what Blizzard initially set out to do with keeping things hidden, but so far that's had pretty mixed results due to a lack of encrypting data mine info and certain runes being pushed to live in either a useless or broken overpowered state. Hopefully
I feel very confident about my opinions about all of this stuff because I am the average player who lucked out and got a top tier guild. There you go.
Whatever the new content they've got cooking is...
So I will get into these raids, maybe not the week 1. Well, considering a little slow, that doesn't even matter, you know? But my guild is going to finish everything week 1. It's gonna be the raids, the everything. It's that. And after like a week or two pass, and I'm finally maxed out here, and everything's nerfed to shit. It's nice.
It's a bit of a better surprise than what incursions were. And speaking of incursions, I hope the meta isn't going to be leveling through them again. I think you're going to lose a lot of people if they see that the moment the patch drops.
Incursions
Phase
were a
4 is
mistake.
definitely the content patch to win back a lot of players following Phase 3. Phase 3 itself has done quite a bit of harm to the seasonal community. Myself, I've really not been thinking that much about Season of Discovery since Cataclysm's come out, till I decided...
Dude, I can't wait to see how people freak out when phase 4 drops. And naturally, if a phase drops, everything gets like roughly 3 times more expensive, and gold gets 3 times more inflated, or even 4 to 5 times, depending on stuff. Listen, again, I'm flipping items. There's a lot of other people flipping items and destroying the markets already. When phase 4 comes and people who haven't logged in for like a month or two come back, they're gonna be destroyed. Okay, listen. They're gonna not be able to buy fucking basic food from a goddamn vendor at this point. And it's gonna be beautiful.
To make this video, but once Blizzard puts out some more information, we learn a bit more about the new runes, and we hear about what Blizzard are planning for phase 4, I expect there to be quite an uptick in interest to the seasonal server. I think Season of Discovery has the potential to bring back a pretty decent chunk of players, at least for the initial hype end game and pre-bis gearing period of time. That always tends to be fun, but phase 4 really does have its work cut out if it is going to get people to come back and then stay. So whilst
I don't know about it. Well, if people are going to come back, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. Anyway, that was Billy. Bye-bye. This is Quizzer7. Have a nice day.